Hello ADHD Tribe, and welcome back to part 2, where I'm going to give you 15 useful techniques to help best manage your time and energy to prevent getting overwhelmed. So before I begin, something to keep in mind is that everyone is different, and what works for you might not work for others. So if you try one of these and it doesn't work for you, then that's okay. It just isn't suited for you. You can always adapt any of these ideas to best work for you. None of them are set in stone. And remember, I am not a doctor. I am merely speaking from my own experience. So with that said, on to the first technique. Number 1, stop and sigh. I'm putting this as number 1 as there is a chance if you are watching this, it's because you're feeling overwhelmed right now. When you're starting to feel anxious and overwhelmed, a good practice is to just stop for a moment. Take a few deep breaths in, focusing on your breath and closing your eyes if you are able to. Maybe even doing a big stretch of your arms into the air. Then end with a big deep breath in and let out a big exasperated sigh. Number 2, step back and assess. After you have stopped for a moment, take a step back to view what's going on, and if you can, assess what is happening to make you overwhelmed. I like to think of that scene in Doctor Strange when his astral form gets pushed out of his body to view things from the outside. Number 3, find out what is overwhelming you. You can't properly treat the symptoms without knowing the cause, so find out what stresses you out, what typical activities seem to take a lot of energy and convincing for you to do or even start, as well as things you normally have to do that you just don't always enjoy doing. Write them down and keep track of them so you don't forget and can reference them later. Our short-term memory isn't the best, so keeping a small notebook close by or the Notes app on your phone handy to write them down as you notice them will go a long way. Number 4. Create a resting to-do list. Alternately to the previous list, create a list of things that make you happy and that you find recharging and/or relaxing. Or, as my friend put it, a resting to-do list. It could also be beneficial to separate these into things that you believe are good for you and things that are more pleasure-based or guilty pleasures. As if deep down you enjoy something but don't believe it's good for you, that thought could possibly creep in and make you feel bad for spending time on it. This list can be a beneficial go-to when feeling overwhelmed instead of diving into the usual distractions. Number 5, have a do-nothing day. Pick one day a week or month to just do nothing but rest. Spend your day doing activities or projects from your resting to-do list and purposely avoiding things from your overwhelming list. At the same time, try to allow yourself not to feel shame for spending however much time you want to spend on any of these things. This said, a weekly or monthly full day of this might not be possible for you for various reasons, so just do the best you can to find some you time. If you have a partner, they might be able to help with that. Also, if you're in a particularly rough spot, you might find yourself taking more than one day, and that's fine too. But if you find yourself taking too many days like this in a row, it could make it harder to get back into a healthy routine. Number 6. Plan your days in advance. This can help you lay out and visualize what you need to do in a day and what is more important to accomplish. But try not to set the list in stone. As I mentioned before, the ADHD brain typically has a poor sense of time, so things can actually take way longer than you think. Plus, life just has a funny way of being unpredictable. Finding a method that works best for you can go a long way. For myself, I have a magnetic monthly calendar that's on my fridge. I update each day the night before, so I know what I need or want to get done. And there are plenty of other options, from one of the many apps out there to keeping a bullet journal or a daily planner. So experiment and find something that works for you. Number 7, find your limits. Finding your limits for what you can do in a day and learning to space things out can be essential in avoiding getting burned out and overwhelmed. To quote my friend, if I know I have to do errands on one day, first of all, I make sure that's the only thing I have on my schedule that day, so I know I can put my energy towards getting through that and then be able to rest before and afterwards. At the same time, it's important to recognize that sometimes that limit will change, and things could be more draining or less draining. If you only have the focus for one task that day along with other typical daily responsibilities, that's okay. Number 8, be conscious about what else is going on. Planning your day and finding your limits can go a long way into setting up your day for success, but there are a lot of other factors that could affect it. From time of year, work stress, an injury or sickness, your relationships or lack thereof, holiday seasons, seasonal depression, and even just having a bad sleep. There are so many things that could lower your limits for what you can mentally or physically take on in a day, so be mindful of these when making your daily plan. Number 9, break down large tasks into steps. One surefire way to overwhelm yourself is planning to do one large task with no clear guidelines as to when you will consider yourself satisfied with stopping. Especially if it's a multi-day project or you don't have the mental capacity to spend extended hours doing something that can't be fully completed in that time. Breaking things down into smaller steps will help things seem less overwhelming and give you more boxes to check off once completed. As an example, when planning to clean your house, you can write out what needs to be done per room, and be sure to check off or cross out every task as you complete them. Even then, trying not to set expectations or put time limits on how long one of those steps might take can be tricky. So a good place to start is thinking about how much time you think something might take and then doubling it. Number 10, find your routine. Finding a routine that works for you is a big help in setting up and planning your day and avoiding getting overwhelmed. For instance, if one of the first things you do in the morning is look over your to-do list or calendar and repeat that every day, you're much more likely to actually remember to do the things on the list. This said, with ADHD it can be really hard to stick with the same things forever as we are prone to getting bored really easily. One way I've found helps with this is keeping a more time-based routine rather than repeating the same things every day. So for example, I keep specific floating time blocks in my day for exercise. Each block is the same length of time, but when I get to it is up to me, as well as what I fill that time with. So when I go to exercise, it doesn't mean I have to pump iron every day. I could do other healthy things such as a full body workout or focusing a specific area, doing yoga, cardio, or stretching. As long as I am doing what I consider exercise for that full hour block, then I am satisfied. Some of you may need more restraint than this, so experiment and figure out what works for you. Number 11, delay gratification. One of the most significant techniques I've found in helping to focus on tasks throughout the day is something I call delaying gratification. By this I mean, if you start your day doing something incredibly stimulating and rewarding, and the rest of the tasks you want to do in the day are less stimulating and fun than what you started with, it can be incredibly hard to bring your mind back down to be able to focus on them. So for example, if I start my day playing video games which are incredibly stimulating and give a lot of instant gratification for completing tasks and quests, trying to then go do a slower paced activity like mowing the lawn or cleaning my house seems so much harder to start and keep my mind focused on enough to complete, which can then lead to getting very frustrated and overwhelmed. And this works for general things as well. Like once I get home from a trip, if I don't unpack immediately and instead go relax and watch a movie, then my suitcase is likely to just sit around, sometimes for days before I finally get around to unpacking it. This is a topic I want to make a standalone video about at some point, so if you would like that, let me know in the comments below. Number 12, pre-plan to save time. If there's one thing we never seem to have enough of, it's time. So planning and acting ahead in order to take some reoccurring time sucks off your plate can go a long way. I know I, for one, am not always a fan of spending large amounts of time cooking dinners every night. So I often set aside one night to cook 1 to 2 large meals and freeze or store the excess for later. That way, if I don't feel like I have the time or patience to cook that night, I'll have something easily accessible that is also good for me. Planning ahead when you're feeling good and energized is much easier than when you're feeling overwhelmed and awful. So why not try and make life for your future self a little bit easier? Number 13, get it out in a healthy way. Having someone to talk to who understands what you're going through and is a good listener can go a long way. Friends, other people with ADHD, counselors, and therapists are some good examples. Journaling, drawing, dancing, exercise, and other artistic means can also help calm your mind and keep you in the moment. Number 14, embrace the freak out. Sometimes just trying to live a daily structured life can get overwhelming and repetitive. Bottling it up can feel like the steam is rising up inside you and can cause you to burn out or break down. So through that, I've found one of the best cures is to just embrace it and freak out in a fun, healthy, and controlled way. One of my favorite ways is a one-man dance party. Flailing around to music while not caring what you look like is incredibly freeing. If you feel like you want other people around but can't, you can often find musicians live streaming sets online these days. And number 15, remember, it's okay. I have personally found it's been really important to learn and remember that people with ADHD can get overwhelmed very easily. Before my diagnosis, every time I got overwhelmed or frustrated or anxious, I took it very personally, like there was something wrong with me for not being able to do some of the things most people seem to have no problem with. I often felt bad when I had to take time to myself and to rest. or if I was struggling to focus and start a project that I or other people really wanted to get done, but I just couldn't bring myself to do. I felt like I had potential but couldn't live up to it, and I didn't know why. Getting my diagnosis and starting medication has eased a lot of that, but it is still definitely there. So please, just try to remember that it's okay and it's normal for the ADHD brain, and that you're not alone in this. So thank you if you made it to the end of this video. I know that was a lot of information to take in, but that is all I have for now. I hope you can find the techniques I covered useful, and feel free to share any that you might have in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe. Until next time.